Hi, welcome to Think Tech. We are raising public awareness about technology, energy, diversity, and globalism. This show is Center Stage. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, proud managing director of Kumukuhua Theater. And I am coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumukuhua Theater. My guest today, Ben Mollin of Hair Education and the Angel Hair Cafe, is coming to us from his salon, Hair Education and Angel Hair Cafe, in Griffith, Indiana. Welcome, Ben Mollin. Hello.
What's up, Donna? Hey, we did it.
Hey, it's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I think I probably travel further than anyone else to get my hair done by you. Can we verify that?
Unfortunately, you're gonna be. I'm sorry. Germany would be the farthest.
Oh man.
I know. Sorry, that was a long time ago. That's when the Rachel haircut was like really popular. This chick named Leslie, her husband was stationed out there. Germany, yeah.
Wow, okay. But I'm happy for you. I really thought I should get some sort of award, but I'm happy that you
I should come out there. I should just go to Honolulu. I think that would be... I'll come to you.
Oh my gosh, I really wish you would. I'd be happy to talk with some salons in the area and say, hey, you really need this guest artist here. It'll help drive some people into your salon. I bet we could make that happen.
Well, all right, perfect.
We'll do it. Bring the family.
All right. Have to.
So I want to tell our viewers how I met you initially, because I love the story.
Okay.
There was this show on Bravo called Shear Genius, and I love me a good reality show. I was watching the show. I was also the managing director of the Chicago Street Theater at that time, and we were in rehearsal for a musical, and this fellow, Jim Mollin, was our musical director. And I hardly knew him, had just met him briefly, but he and a group of the actors were standing outside my office door one night during rehearsal, and he says, hey, have any of you seen that show, Shear Genius? And all of the actors, who are always busy at night, they don't have time to watch anything on TV, they were saying, oh, no. And I bust out of my office door and said, oh my God, I love that show. You watch it? And he said, well, yeah, I watch it. My son's on it. And I said, which one is he? And he says, he's the guy with the bolts in his ears and all the tattoos. And I said, oh my God, he's my favorite. I want him to cut my hair someday. And he said, well, he has a salon in Griffith, Indiana, of all places. I did not expect to find the hairdresser of my dreams, a 30-minute drive from home. That's my story of meeting Ben. And now, because of that show, you did exceptionally well on that show. You were the first runner-up.
Yeah, that's all. It's also known as second place.
Second place, yeah.
Almost won. Yeah, it was real close.
I personally think that you should have won, but that's just my opinion. But because of it, you did kind of win, because it was amazing to be able to watch you work with hair. I watched you work with my hair type and said, oh my, that's the guy for me. To know that you were going to be the perfect guy to work on my hair and then just go get my hair done by you. And I'm sure that's why you have people still coming from so far away, because you are an artist. It's been
a lot of time. It's been 24 years now that I've been licensed. It'll be 24 years in October. So I'll be 42 in November. And it's literally been more than half of my adult life has been spent behind a chair doing women's hair. So it's I come from the school of fake it till you make it, Donna, and I listen, I speak girl, which is definitely, it's like speaking Mandarin and Cantonese, and luckily, just from not giving up and just kind of sticking with it and knowing what not to do. I was my own teacher for many years and ended up on the show out of nowhere, and ever since the show, I've basically been on the road for about 8 years now. So it's been it's been awesome, but it's anytime you reach a certain plateau with anything, especially creatively, and I'm sure you know this as well with the move to Hawaii and everything, there's always a new set of dues you got to pay, and there's always a new set of stairs you got to climb, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a constant thing with me. I'm constantly in a situation where I never thought I'd be with in a million years. And, you know, fake it till you make it has just been the campaign the whole entire time. And I've been really lucky to have some amazing teachers. And I'm really lucky to be a representative of this industry. And I'm proud to be a representative of this industry and represent the Midwest. So
That's very cool. Well, you have an amazing story. You've climbed a lot of ladders. And if we could, I'd like to go back to the beginning and talk for a little while about, so here's young little Ben Mollin, and what was the first time you said, I want to cut someone's hair, Mom?
You want to go back.
I really do.
You want to go.
Because you're a guy's guy. You're the
Right.
hair, the stations in your salon are, tool chests. You're drinking a PBR on my show, for God's sake. You're a man's man.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you speak girl, and it's very
I speak
strange to
girl.
talk to you without your hands in my hair. I have to
Right.
say.
Yeah. It's weird talking to people without having a cape on them too, It was always something, like I had a really good, growing up with like theater people for parents, I had a very, my parents never said no unless it was like a friggin' horrible idea, and they always would let me make my own mistakes, and they were always aware of what was going on, but they let me learn from my mistakes. And I grew up in a very loving family where people sang, and I told them I wanted to go to beauty school. They were cool with it. So I was raised very differently than most people. Like when you get to talking to people, a lot of times parents will set the bars really high on their children. My parents knew I was a creative kid, and they embraced it. And that's so rare, it's super rare. So what turned me on to hair in the first place was I was just always braiding stuff when I was a kid. And there was a place I think it was called Hair Gallery or like Hair Crafters. It was in Cal City, and this woman named Beverly used to cut my hair. And the first time I ever wanted a haircut that was like based off of like something I saw on TV was Terminator. I wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger's haircut. And I wanted spikes, and it's like every 9-year-old, it's like when little girls want highlights and stuff, I wanted spiked hair. And I would go in there, and I just liked being there. Like, it just felt like a really cool place. And when I was in high school, a friend of mine showed me how to do a French braid in her hair, because I watched her do it. She showed me how to do it, and we would have substitute teachers, and I'd be like, let me French braid your hair. So I was known as a guy that could French braid. And then my friend Katie had me give her a perm. She worked at a Sally Beauty Supply. She showed up at my mom's house with all these like pink rods. And this is back in 1989. Paula Abdul, you know what I mean?
Oh, I remember that time. I had the perms.
You got it. Yeah, a little spray gel and get that side out, so you can hear the bangs.
Oh, yeah, the bangs.
Right, yeah. Man claws, the man claw, the 80s man claw, otherwise known as the Def Leppard, And so I just started doing stuff like that, and I gave her a perm. It took me like 3 or 4 hours, but it catered, because like artistically I'm more of an OCD artist, and hair just catered towards that OCD. I got to take small sections, and it was neat and organized, and I just loved it from day one. So when I graduated, I knew it was going to be something that I was going to think about. Went to beauty school, and 24 years later, here I am Skyping to you in Honolulu and traveling the world. It was just never in a million years that I think I would be doing what I'm doing. And I never thought that you'd go as far as you could in life with a license of cosmetology in the state of Illinois and Indiana, so.
Wow. Well, you know what? When you're younger, it probably was a really great way to meet girls, to get to know them, too. Was it?
It was like, in a way, yeah, it's a different thing though. I know guys that went to beauty school because it's just like, well, hell, this is going to be awesome. It's an all girls school, and there was that side of it. But I never, I'm being honest too. Like I never, even like being a musician, like for me, it was just something that I did. It was just something that I almost like had to do. And nothing ever really came along with it except gratification from the people that I was working with. And that's one of the reasons why I've done it for so long. And in all honesty, with me, there's times I can take it or leave it, you know, but then I think about what I'm able to do for other people, and the fact that I can give women confidence and empowerment. I couldn't take that away from people. You know, I almost feel like that's my job for them, is to do that for them, you know? So it's more than a job to me. It's just, I'm that person for those people, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, you do take so much care in the work that you're doing. I don't think I've ever been in your chair for less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
I know I have never heard you complain about, oh my God, you got a lot of hair, which is a complaint I got from every other person who's ever cut my hair.
Right.
And you just, I've never taken in a picture to you and said, make me look like this. I've always just said, Ben, do whatever you think is right for me. And I think you got to know, you asked me some questions, got to know my lifestyle a little bit, and then you have always given me cuts that just are me.
Yeah, it goes back into knowing how to speak girl, Donna. To be honest with you, like when you know, and I think that this bleeds over with any kind of occupation or anything. When you know what not to do, you've already problem solved. Yeah, about 50-60% of the stuff you don't want to do. So then you narrow it down. So you go from like a big circle, and then you just kind of take half of that and you just completely get rid of that one side. So now you're only dealing with like half the pie. A couple questions, and all of a sudden it just kind of starts to narrow and it gets a little bit smaller. So now you've gone from do whatever you want to do this, and now you're like within like the 10 or 15%, you know, percentile of 100. So then you just kind of work with that, and usually you kind of figure it out, you know.
Yeah, well, but there's a great deal of artistry to, you know, knowing and you're also looking at a person's face and figuring out what's going to work and what's going to work with the myriad of different types of hair that there are out there.
The best advice that I give anytime that I'm lecturing or talking is that, again, it goes back to knowing what not to do. Like, you're never going to meet a woman that's going to come to you when it comes to like her hair and just be like, can you do something that's going to make me look washed out, older, and fat? Like, it's just not going to happen. So automatically when it comes to like hair color, you're going to want to do something that's going to make the eyes pop. Because a lot of times the eyes are going to be one of the most flattering features on a woman's face, you know? So if you know how to go ahead and balance that out, it's like decorating. You know, if you want something to look lighter, put it up against something dark. And as far as the haircut, if you look at like the eyebrow line and the cheek, it's very, you know, it's right there. You know, again, you know, you're not going to want to make someone's head look any fatter or big. You don't want the chin to go, you know, just drop down like a couple inches. Yeah. So it's working with basic lines and basic ideas that are just going to flatter the shape, the face, and make it look as slim as you possibly can, and make the eye color pop as much as you possibly can. And that's kind of been my philosophy with it, and one of the reasons why I think became successful with it.
Yeah, amen. That, like I said, I'm happy to wait until I can get back to Griffith to see you to get my haircut, because you do it right.
Don't get me wrong, you might not be the furthest that's ever traveled, but it is a total compliment to me, knowing that somewhere between an 8-hour flight it's you know, a client is coming to come and get quaffed in my small little hipster town of Griffith, Indiana.
It's worth it, totally worth it. Hey, we've got to take our first break, Ben. When we come back, I would like to talk about what led into you getting into Shear Genius. Because that's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a short break. We will be right back. Please stick with us for more of Center Stage.
Okay, this is Think Tech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Energy Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO here, and co-host Ray Starling here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16, but also stream live. So please come visit us, hear about the latest in clean energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here. You got any comment on all this?
As important as energy is in all of our lives today, this is a great forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and participate.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think this is the greatest show in the energy world here in Hawaii. You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on, like Jim Alberts. We appreciate your coming today.
Thank you.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, 4 to 5
Aloha.
p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, welcome back. This is Center Stage on the Think Tech Hawaii Digital Network. We're coming to you from Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. If you would ever like to join us in our downtown studio audience, you can do that. Just email jay@thinktechhawaii.com and he will hook you up. We're talking with Ben Mollin of Shear Genius and Hair Education in Griffith, Indiana. Shear Genius was on Bravo TV, and if we can, and we're Skyping Ben in from Griffith, Indiana. Ben, if we can, I would really like to talk about what you were doing that led into Shear Genius. You had an idea for a different show, right?
I did, yeah. I mean, you know, again, life is a very interesting way of pushing you in certain directions and certain things, you know. And at that current time in my life, I was doing hair out of my living room in Calumet City. And I had a pretty solid clientele. To be honest with you, it was probably one of my favorite setups I've ever had to date. I had about 50 women that I did. It was cut and color. They came every 4 to 6 weeks. They paid cash. And it was awesome. I was like a drug dealer. I was just selling great coverage and bobs, you know, and long layers and trims and highlights. And people were still rocking the Rachel haircut and Friends. And I could still do that in my sleep. And long story short, I had a record store with my buddy Ryan. It's called Bossa Nova. We were in Lansing. We opened it up, and it was a music venue, a hair salon. We sold vinyl and like resale clothes. And the first year it went really well. And then the second year, like 9/11 happened, and I swear to you, Donna, 9/11 and Napster coming out was like the same day. It was like all within the same kind of type thing. And then from Napster came LimeWire, and then people weren't buying music anymore; they were just downloading it.
Yeah.
And then there was a good couple of years where people were just afraid to leave the house, you know. So I ended up taking probably around like a $50,000-$60,000 hit, and it was massive. It was just like a ton of money to lose and not have. So from that point, I ended up running a couple salons here and there, and nothing was really concrete. So I decided that I would just go ahead and do hair from home. And I did for a while, and I had a friend named Adam that moved to Vegas because he was a magician that I grew up with, and he got a job at the Wynn, and he was living with a guy from Cirque du Soleil. So I said to myself, screw it, man. I'm just going to file bankruptcy and become a carny, and I'm just going to move to Vegas and just live this life. You know, so I found a salon out there. I believe at the time it was called Diva Hair Salon. And again, I got my clientele at home. But I said, before I go ahead and do this, I'm going to put myself on Craigslist under TV, film, and media for somebody that'll work basically for free for high quality, like resolution JPEG shots. Because I've always had myself .com. The minute .comming came out, I've been Mollin.com myself. And I started doing TV, film, and media in Chicago. And I would get like pickup gigs. So one of the pickup gigs that I worked with John Malkovich. One of the pickup gigs I worked with Dana Delaney from Desperate Housewives. Oh. I did this big indie film called 5/25/77 about the day Star Wars opened up. And I got these random gigs and made some friends. And then I was going through the paperwork to get my license for Nevada. I was going through the Chapter 7, Chapter 13, like Peter Francis Geraci style, true story. And I got this random phone call from NBC, and this woman named Lee Jones, who was the woman that would hire me to do these reshoots. Because the reshoots I would do for like $75 and like beer, you know, I was just doing it for the experience. And they said, you know, we're looking for somebody from Chicago to be in this reality show about hairdressing. Do you know somebody? And she's like, if I got the guy for you. NBC called me. I thought it was a joke. Talked to him on the phone, realized it wasn't. They wanted to meet with me. I met with them live. I told them my funniest client story. They were laughing to the point where they were crying. They came, I got done. They said, make me a video. So I made them a gangster rap video called Haircuts in the Summer, which is still on YouTube. I'm dropping F-bombs. I'm smoking pot. I'm doing yoga. It's a mess, you know, but it's funny. And I sent it to him, and I ended up getting flown out, and the rest is history. I mean, it's just such a random, and I could go, it would take hours for me to explain like the little details and the trivial things that happened between this and happened between that. And then the show ended up airing, and my life changed forever.
Yeah, it did. What was the name of the video that's on YouTube?
Oh, it's called Haircuts in the Summer.
Haircuts in the Summer. We'll make sure we link it to the video.
Okay.
So you went out, were you, once you dropped everything and went out there, was there an audition process, or were you definitely in?
I got kidnapped. I always joke I got kidnapped. I didn't really try out for it. I just kind of stuck with them and would call them every once in a while. So then they flew me out to LA after I signed my life away with like confidentiality and stuff. And at the time, my grandmother was like old, you know, like 109. No, she wasn't 109, but you know what I mean. She was like old grandma, you know.
Yeah.
And I signed a waiver for the show saying like, well, if anybody dies in your immediate family, you don't have to be told until after production. Well, think about it. I mean, they're like, why are they going to fly you out, spend all this money? I'm not going to fly you home and fly you back in. It's not like a Matt Damon or, you know, anybody else, you know. It's reality actors, you know.
Yeah.
And so I told my grandma, I'm like, hey, Grandma, I'm going to go out to California and be on a TV show. I'm like, if for some reason you know, I just want to make sure, like, we're cool, you know. If you want to haunt me, like, it's totally cool, but I think this is my chance, you know. So she gave me my blessing, and then I was off to LA. I flew out there with all my stuff, landed at LAX, and got picked up in an unmarked white van, like the kind of a no back window, like that you normally have tools in. So I'm like, screw it. So I hopped in, and that was it. Took me to a hotel, sequestered me, and it took like 7 days to go through like an interview process, and got picked.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, your personality, there were a lot of really great personalities on that season. And I don't know why the show didn't, I wish that the show had continued. There were a lot of very good personalities on that season, but your personality was definitely needed because you showed up in a ninja suit for one of the challenges, I remember.
Yeah, I just wanted a picture with me as a ninja and one of the chicks from Charlie's Angels. I was just thinking, like, how awesome would this be? My friends would laugh. You know, it was it's at a certain point with that when I stayed on, like when I was continuing to do better than other people, and I knew I was like getting like up there in TV, and you know, 6 or 7 times I won. That's 6 or 7 weeks on like international television. So I was just starting to kind of mess around, like give myself haircuts so that when I would see the commercials, I'd always look differently, and I'd shave, I'd have a goatee. You know, I was just bored, you know. I didn't know what else to do, you know. So, but no, it ended up, you know, I ended up making it just from a random email from me sacrificing my time and money to hope something better came out of it. So I had an idea, I put myself out there, and it worked. And that's very rare, John. It's very rare that things like that end up working out. So I consider myself extremely blessed, you know.
Wow. Well, you're blessed with talent, and you have the chutzpah to say, I'm going to throw myself out there and, you know, fake it till I make it.
Yeah.
You know, because that is what you hear over and over again from people who, you know, reach the big dream, the pinnacle of where they wanted to be, is that they did it for free. They did it because they loved it. They just figured out, how am I going to make a living doing something that I'm passionate about?
Right. Yeah. And it's, you know, I'm still paying my dues. I'm still earning that living, I guess, as you would say. You know, it gets, the more you take on, like the heavier the workload, like the heavier the workload, you know. So the more you want to do, and if you're a creative person, I've always said that being overly creative is almost like being handicapped in a way, you know. Anybody that's right-brained at some point when they get older wishes they were left-brained because they'd be more organized and structured. And then everybody that uses like their left brain, their type A, always is curious about people that are right-brained. You know, I mean, I've had people say to me, man, you can just, I give you a stick, a beer, a thing of black paint, and a wall. I come back in an hour, and I was like, oh my God, you know. But then I feel the same way about people that can like write a goal out for like a year. Okay, this is where I'm going to be in a year. Like, this is what I'm going to budget for this. This is what I'm going to budget for that, you know? I mean, I figured out a couple of years ago, just like going through like profit and loss stuff, I spent $6,000 on craft beer.
Well,
You know?
hey.
Yeah, you gotta have your priorities.
It's
all,
important.
you
You
know?
got to feed your spirit too.
Right. You gotta have all your ducks in a row.
Hey.
But no, it's a whole different thing, man. I always think about what the next thing is going to be, like, all the time. Like, I don't think I've ever reached a point in my life where I've been like, okay, this is it. This is exactly where I want to be. I'm always challenging myself, those around me, because it's just, I don't know what else to do with my life. I think life to me it's a constant struggle, but it's a game of cat and mouse, and I still feel like an underdog in so many ways. And I still feel like my job before I die is just to conquer the world and make the world a cooler place. This is how I am.
Okay, well, I want to talk about that some more. And so we started a little late. Do you mind if we blow through our break?
Oh, I don't care. This is fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. So we're just going to plow through. We got a few more minutes left. Let's talk about Joico. Can we? So you do a lot of work with Joico. You go around the world now. With that product. Can we talk about what you're doing with them?
Absolutely. Tabitha Coffee is the one that got me the job with Joico. She's actually the one that told Joico to get a hold of me, because after the show, I wasn't working for a product company. I never went to hair shows or anything else like that. I was too busy trying to play in bands and figure out like how to sneak alcohol into a club. I had so much other stuff going on besides. Hair was always something that I did to kind of pay the bills, and I always thought it was kind of cool because there is like a craftsmanship to it. Some people call it artistic. I call it like craftsman. There's a way to be really creative with it. It's like working with wood or textiles. You're just working with hair. So there's, it's a cool thing to do with your hands. And after the show, Tabitha got a hold of Joico, because at the time she was working for them, doing like basically what I do now, more international stuff, and said, you need to get a hold of them. So they got a hold of me, and at the time I was talking to Project Runway about possibly doing hair for the Project Runways. And then Nexus, actually, the one that sponsored Shear Genius, wanted me to go ahead and do stuff for them on like commercials and stuff. But the problem is, Don, I didn't feel confident with that. I was just like, man, just because I almost won a reality show doesn't mean anything to me. Like I knew the things that I was good at, but I also knew that there was things that I was very poor at that I had no idea how to do. And I just didn't feel like I would be representing myself to the fullest if I didn't have the confidence to back it up. And that was probably the smartest decision that I've ever made. So I get a phone call from Joico when I'm deciding like kind of where I want things to go. And they said, hey, we need somebody to go to New York to do Roger Waters' hair for the VH1 Save the Music. Would you be interested? I'm like, yep. So they flew me out to New York, and I'll tell you some other time the story about New York, how I ended up waking up and being carried by a 350-pound black man like a baby. It's an interesting story, but we'll do that another time. It goes way west, So I did that. I came back and I said, wow, this is crazy. When I met Roger Waters and styled him out, I said, man, this is like for real. This is like a for real. Like my life is about to change hardcore. And I met with Joico when I went out there about 8 years ago, and I said, hey, give me a couple years to practice before you go ahead and send me out. And they did. And 8 years ago on a handshake, I've been working for Joico, and the people that run the company are super cool. It's a massive company, and they were lucky. I was lucky enough to be trained by a gentleman by the name of Damian Carney and a woman by the name of Sue Pemberton. And they're just cut and colorists. The British people, they're just amazing. And when I started getting like the proper training, that's when things started to go ahead and click, and that's when things started to happen.
And it's all...
Because I was like, oh, yeah, well, I was just like, well, this is why this does that. Again, you fake it till you make it, you know what not to do. If somebody shows you something and just breaks it down and just breaks down your ego and then builds it back up again, that's the best thing that you can have if you have a good mentor and a good teacher. And
that's the attitude of a true artist. Ben, I'm so sorry that I have to wrap up. I would love to continue talking with you. We're going to have you come back on again.
That's fine.
Okay?
Yeah, all good.
Your website, say your website.
www.benmollin.com.
And you're on Facebook, and I cannot recommend this man enough, and I can't wait to continue the conversation. Then I look forward the next time when I'm there talking to you and you're in my hair.
Right on. And you go ahead and find me a couple shops in Honolulu that need some balayage classes and some blowout classes. I'm on the next plane. I'm bringing the family. So
I am all over that. Thank you so much for being here, Ben.
right on.